Sound check. Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Nathan Thompson with the Wellness Way, Yorkville. Happy Monday, guys. Hope you guys had a great weekend. And if you're tuning in and watching us, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So if you're watching right now, go ahead and say hello. Let me know where you're watching from as well. If you're watching replay, go ahead and hit replay or type in replay. Let me also know where you're watching from. I get a kick out of seeing where people are watching from. So thank you very much for tuning in. Now, the purpose of tonight is I wanted to go over something that a lot of people send me messages about and they ask me about is the best biohacks of 2024. So I'm going to give you my opinion on the best biohacks of 2024. I'll give you the reason why in just a second. So best biohacks of 2024. Now, guys, I'm going to say the best biohack is actually being at the inflammation event coming up. This is going to be tomorrow. I know we have a lot of people registered for that. Tuesday, October 29th, which is going to be tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. If you're from the Chicagoland area, you want to work with us directly and you have issues, in regards to chronic joint pain, problems with weight loss resistance, problems with the immune system, with your hormones, suffering with infertility or thyroid issues, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, all of those different things. People say, do you treat those? And I'm like, well, we can definitely measure those, but the idea is to work on what is causing the body to start to adapt to some of the things that you may be doing and not have an idea of why you're doing certain things or what you're doing that could be damaging the body. So our inflammation event is really designed to help bridge the gap so you understand what you need to be doing in order to start getting your health back and to start having health restoration, which has a lot to do with biohacks and things like that. So this is an in-person event. This is not a remote event or anything. So we always will have someone register from like Thailand or something like that. But this is an in-person event. So make sure if you're from the Chicagoland area, get registered for it right now. All you have to do is you'll see in our profile, our link tree, just go ahead and click on that link and then you'll see this pop up and it'll say inflammation event, work with me in person. And people reach out to me saying, hey, do you do remote consults? Not at the moment. And the reason why is because we're so absolutely slammed with seeing people in person. Remember, my first priority is my community. And so that's why I will always have first priority over, over to my community over anybody else. And so that's why currently I'm not seeing people remotely, especially. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to down the road, but if I do, I'll let you know that we are in fact doing that. So go ahead and you can click that link. It'll take you to Eventbrite. And if you go to Eventbrite, it'll take you about 60 seconds to register for that. We'll have someone reach out to you just to confirm that event. And I will actually say this, guys, if you register for it, please be committed to actually coming to that as well. There's a lot of people who are interested versus committed. And when you're interested, you tend to just give up. But if you're committed, you're not letting anything get in the way of doing that. In fact, if you register for it, be committed to being there. And in fact, be committed to being there early, not necessarily on time, or even worse, being there late. Okay. So the best biohacks of 2024. So hopefully, guys, people who follow me, they'll send me a message. What do you think about, sauna? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? and they're really looking for some kind of shortcut and some kind of hack. So what are the best biohacks of 2024? Which you probably heard of if you follow, Gary Brecka and things like that. And they talk about biohacking, all the time. But I'm going to give you my opinion. Okay. So what are the best biohacks of 2024? What's your opinion? And here's my opinion. There are none. There are none other than hard work done with the right approach. Okay. I'm going to explain to you why that is my opinion. Okay. I'm going to go over some of the benefits of some of the biohacks, but I will actually make a statement and say this. You're just, if you're doing cold plunge all the time, you're not like 3 ice cubes away from having ultimate health. There are no shortcuts when it comes to having good health. And in fact, one of the things that you have to do is you have to work hard with the right approach and do it repeatedly in order to produce good health. That's also the same way when it comes to producing disease. Disease does not just pop up if you do something wrong, in one day. Is that disease is the wrong approach done repeatedly over time as well. Now, the reason why I say that there are no shortcuts when it comes to, biohacks, there are no like great biohacks, is that nothing worthwhile comes easy. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. If you haven't learned that yet in your life, you do not want something to come easy. Everything that I have worked for has been very hard. And in fact, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned. I don't want to say growing up because I am growing up, but one of the biggest things I've learned in life or that I teach my kids is that it should be hard and you should fail repeatedly over and over and over again, because failure is your first attempt in learning, and it teaches you how to not give up. But a lot of people do, in fact, just give up. So nothing worthwhile in your life will ever comes easy. Okay. Now let me say why there are no, biohacks that are going to revolutionize your health. Is that most people have a very unrealistic idea of what it takes in order to improve health. A very unrealistic idea. That's why they'll come to me, and they'll think that they need an oil change when in reality they need a whole engine overhaul. That's why people, being a former gym owner, I would almost laugh. People would come in and they say, I need to get ripped and in shape, and I'm getting married in 6 weeks, and it has to happen during that time. But most people have just a completely unrealistic idea of what it takes and how long it takes in order to be able to improve health. And if you want to challenge that notion, or if you don't believe me, here's what I want you to do. Go to the gym on January 15th, then go back to the same gym 3 months later, and guess what? You will probably see that a lot of people have just given up. Probably see that the same people that you saw on January 15th, they are no longer there, because what they're looking for is they're looking for the quick fix, and they're looking for, the biohack or something that's going to just produce just an incredible result in a short amount of time. And I will tell you that there is nothing other than the hard work approach that's done the right way repeatedly over a long period of time. So go to the gym on January 15th, go back 3 months later and see if those same people are actually there. Now, I want to make a statement here. I have worked out 4 to 5, sometimes 6 times per week over the last 15 years consistently. The longest I ever took off was a month. That was because I was actually going through a detox and I was trying to recover and doing a lot of other things. So I've had about 1 month off, and I have worked out 4 to 5 times per week without fail for the last 15 years. And the biggest thing that I can tell you is I just put my head down and I did the work. Okay. This is why, being a former gym owner, people had just a completely unrealistic of how long it took in order to be able to put on muscle, to build health, or to build the body that you actually want. And in fact, being, 47 years of age, my son will come to me and he'll say, "Hey, Dad, my friends say that you do steroids," which, by the way, I've never touched it, never, not once, nor would I ever consider doing that, because I believe that there are no biohacks, and to do steroids would just be just an absolute slap in the face to so many people that are actually working hard. And I said, "Well, why do they think that?" And I said, "Well, because you have a lot of muscle mass." And it just goes to show you that a lot of young people don't know that, if you've done something for 15 years, you will finally see the fruits of your labor, as well. And you could also lose the fruits of your labor in a short amount of time. But it's just amazing that if you have a little bit of muscle mass, people automatically assume that you're cheating. And that just is more of a reflection on them than it is for you, because they think that that's the only way in order to get any kind of results. In fact, people will look at me and be like, oh, it must be easy. You just have banker's hours. I'm like, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is take care of patients, do it for 20, almost 21 years, without fail, and be there for people, and try to work on them health. But I also see that a lot of them are always looking for the bright, shiny object in order for the quick fix as well. It's what our nature is. But I'm here to tell you there are no quick fixes when it comes to that. And in fact, when you look at 15 years of hard work, now you're looking at the fruits of someone's labor, and people just automatically want to assume that there are some shortcuts that are involved with it. And there are actually, guys, no shortcuts. Okay. So let's talk about the biohacks that people send me a lot of messages, have questions about. Cold plunge, far infrared sauna, grounding sheets, your fitness regime, your quote unquote protocol, all of those things that people want to know about as well. Now, let me first say this, is there a benefit in what people would consider a biohack? And I would say yes. Is there a benefit to cold plunge? Absolutely. Is there a benefit to a far infrared sauna? Absolutely. Is there a benefit to grounding or grounding sheets? Absolutely. Is there a benefit to some of those things? Absolutely. But I think that a lot of them are actually overstated, and they're just wrapped up, with in a little bit of truth, but making a lot of promises that just tend to under deliver, especially. Why would you want to do cold plunge? A lot of people will do it because, getting into, 50, 45, 50 degree water for a minute or 2 minutes, they're like, wow, it helps so much with my inflammation. And I'm like, yeah, it does. I've done a cold plunge before. And I don't consider it, something that's super revolutionary. But the thing is that if you need to do it constantly to try to lower inflammation, maybe you should start thinking about what's causing the inflammation in the first place. What about a far infrared sauna? Have I done that? Yes, absolutely. I've gone into a far infrared sauna repeatedly, but I also know that here's what I can expect from actually doing that. But what are the benefits of the far infrared sauna? Well, far infrared radiation actually helps to increase melatonin, which is your recovery hormone. And also the idea of sweating without needing a bunch of effort in order to do that. Because remember, the body removes toxins by pooping it out, metabolizing it in the liver, through the gastrointestinal system, by sweating it out, by breathing it out, by peeing it out, because it actually can get filtered through the kidneys. So sweating is actually very good as far as the removal of toxins. And in fact, what I recommend far infrared sauna for anybody who's dealing with any kind of mycotoxin illness, mycotoxicity, things like that, is that, yeah, you should go into a far infrared sauna, because research actually shows that sweating through far infrared actually benefits or helps the body to be able to remove certain types of mycotoxins, especially. So that's why, I'll tell people, that's why we even have it in the office. I'll tell people you need to get into a far infrared sauna a couple of times a week. But the thing is when people are dealing with mycotoxin illness, I tell them, you have a long road ahead of you. You have a year of working really hard in order to be able to get that under control. Okay. Now, what about grounding? Barefoot walking in the grass, and the transfer of the Earth's electrons into the feet, or grounding sheets. And people will be like, yeah, I use grounding sheets and it helps me sleep better, takes away like all my aches and pains and inflammation. And I'm like, maybe you should work on figuring out what's causing it in the first place. And then people look at the next bright, shiny object when it comes to fitness, and that's what just gets me, because you look at fitness trends and you look at something that I've been CrossFitting for the last 15, 16 years. And then people look at other things because they think, well, maybe this one has the answer. And you just go back and forth, just like an unanchored person, an unanchored mind, especially. And then people talk about their protocol. What do we think about this protocol? And the first thing I say is show me the testing, because there's no protocol that works for every single person. The protocol that works is going to be based on the testing for you. In fact, a lot of it has nothing to do with testing. And a lot of things that I'll recommend for people, actually pretty much everything, is just based off of testing, whether it's food allergy testing, whether it's stool testing, mycotoxin testing, looking at a male panel, looking at hormones, inflammatory levels, and things like that. But so many people are looking for the bright, shiny object. They really, really are. And guys, just like I say for a lot of things, you're not one sauna session away from ultimate health. You're not one herb away from ultimate health. And you're also not a couple of ice cubes away from having ultimate health yet. So many people, or one workout, but yes, so many people would say, oh yeah, I'm just that far away from having ultimate health. It's the consistent habits that you have to do repeatedly over the course of months, and even for some people, even years. But I want you to think of, instead of thinking of the biohack, think of the healthy habits. I'm going to talk about this in just a second about the healthy habits. But I want you to think of this. If healthy habits were your friend, what would they say? Okay. So let's say you could interview a person that was known as your healthy habits, and what would they say? You know what? A lot of them, if they were, their friend, or if you could personify them, you know what they probably would say? They tend to ignore me until they need something. I want you just to think of that, because yes, I do have, quote unquote friends or people that I have a relationship with, and I don't hear from them until they need something from me. I don't know if I would then call them a friend if they only want to talk to you when they need something. But think of your healthy habits, or even think of your body in which you tend to start to do things like January 1st, the diet starts. And if you're always doing that every January 1st, then your health would probably say the same thing. They tend to ignore my health until they need something from me. So which means the removal of some kind of symptom, or the removal of fat or weight loss or whatever it might be. And that's why, guys, when I look at somebody and they're saying, I'm doing this new thing, I'm like, I don't need to hear it. Show me your progress after 3 months, and then we'll talk after that. But here's something that's a little bit deeper, because people say, oh, you shouldn't mix, the office with religion or with politics. I'm like, let me be me, and I'll let you be you. Okay. But let me ask you a question. Would God say the same thing? He's saying, hey, so and so, what would you say about this person? And would God say, they tend to only want me, or they tend to only need me when they need something from me? There's so many people that treat the relationship with God as not a relationship, but more as a magical genie in which you need to rub the bottle and get everything that you want. But think of this. Am I only in communion with God when I need something, when I need to get out of a pinch or a bind, or if I need better health or something like that? And is he my genie in the bottle? But hopefully that should hit you like a ton of bricks. But would God say the same thing about that? Meaning they tend to ignore me until they need something. All right. Now, here's what I want you to be very aware of is the bright, shiny object syndrome. Okay. And this is why a lot of what I'm going to be talking about really has to do a lot with shifting your mindset. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a second, but beware of bright, shiny object syndrome. Because do you see so many people that are looking for the bright, shiny object, that they're looking for the quick fix? They're looking for the new object that they can go and gravitate towards, thinking that it's going to take care of all of their problems. So that's what you need to be very, very wary of. And that's why I say, listen, you're not a 10-year-old, you're an adult. And it's time for you to realize there's nothing that replaces hard work that's done consistently over time. And yes, I am going to talk about religion, and I'm going to talk a little bit about politics, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Okay. And if this offends you, then I will say this: you are at the wrong rally. You are at the wrong live video. Okay. The rich man and Jesus. And this is something that I think of quite a bit, because if you go back into the Bible, into the New Testament, and you see that a rich man came to Jesus, and here's what he said. He asked Jesus, what must I do in order to get eternal life? And then he went off all the list of things that he has done, like a list of like 7 or 8 things. Jesus just paused, looked at him, and then he said this: sell everything that you have and give it to the poor. And the rich man walked away a very sad person. Okay. Now, looking at this, Jesus doesn't say anybody who's got any money, you need to sell it all, you need to get rid of, and you need to live as a pauper. But really what Jesus said was this: he said, you need to give up the most important things in your life, and I need to have preeminence in your life. And this is very true, because so many people, I will see them come in when I know that one of the things that they are struggling with, it may be the overabundance of eating sugar. We'll test this and look at this. It may be that they're struggling with alcohol. When I see that, I will take it away from them. And there are some people who I know that's the most important thing in their life. And they walk away a sad person because they can't give up the very thing that's destroying their life, that's destroying their health. And I had a conversation with someone not long ago, in which, they were doing some things that were very detrimental to their health. And I said, but I have such a hard time stopping it. And I said, well, I want you to think of it this way. If you're doing something and it's destroying your health and you refuse to quit, or you can't quit that, then you know what you call that? And they said, addiction. I said, bingo. Okay. So there are a lot of people who, if I said give up sugar, they quit right away because that's the most important thing in their life. Don't take away my security blanket, especially. So that's why, for many things, you have to think about, what do I need to get out of my life that's destroying my life? And if you can't do that, then that's what you would call an addiction. So the holidays, guys, we're coming up into the holidays. And I always laugh at this because I'm just amazed that more people just don't think about this. I remember, last year coming like in February, and I had a consult with someone. I'm like, have you been avoiding sugar? Because this person was diabetic, okay? Really struggling with eating, terrible diet, lots of sugar, things like that. He looked at me and said, well, it was the holidays. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Did the holidays like put a gun to your head and said, you have to actually just binge and destroy yourself or I'm going to pull the trigger? But people tend to look at the holidays as some kind of hiatus that they get to take away from their health. And I want you to think about this. The laws of physics, the law of gravity, the law of health, the law of healing, they don't take a break from the holidays. But what's amazing is that so many people do. Okay. So when people say, hey, what's your take on the holidays? Is I'm going to say this. The holidays are coming up. And in fact, like here comes Halloween, as if someone's forcing you to eat all that junk food. So when you look at the holidays, people tend to look at it as a 6 to 7 week hiatus from their health, as if they're getting away with it, and they're not. So what's my opinion on the holidays? Well, it's called the holidays. It's not the hollow weeks. It's not the hollow month. It's the holidays, which if you looked at the holidays, it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. It's 3 days. Yet most people just tie all those together into a whole season and completely neglect their health. And in fact, if you took the holiday season and then you took all of your birthdays, your anniversaries, all of the 4th of July type holidays, things like that, and you tied it into, just taking a break from doing the things that you should be doing, you easily could be spending 3 months out of every year of just creating damage to your body, maybe even irreparable damage. And so that's why you have to stop looking at the holidays as a whole season and look at it as a day instead. So that's why, will I celebrate on Thanksgiving? Yep. Will I celebrate on Christmas? Yep. Will I celebrate on New Year's? Yep, I'll celebrate. Not too much, obviously. But the biggest thing that I will tell you is this, is that you celebrate the reason, not yourself. And I see so many people that they think it's some kind of license to celebrate themselves. And that is one of the most self-centered things that I'd ever see. You need to celebrate the reason why we are celebrating, and just stop worshiping yourself and stop celebrating yourself during that time of year. And just think of, what can I do in order to just check out of my health? And you need to actually celebrate the reason instead of worshiping yourself. Biggest thing that I can tell you. But just remember this. Neither a time of year nor people determine my actions. You know what determines my actions? My priorities do. So that's why, it doesn't matter, even when Sunday comes, every Sunday, yep, I'll go to the gym and I'll actually work out. And people are like, well, it's Sunday. And I'm like, well, this is my priorities, and I'm always working on my priorities. And in fact, I always get a kick out of people who, they got to be home and they got to watch their sports games. They got to watch their football. And I'm like, I haven't watched an NFL game or a college football game for probably over a dozen years, because I actually think it's one of the dumbest things to do is to be rooting for a team. And then you say, we won. You didn't win. They don't know who you are. But that's why I don't spend a lot of time fantasizing about my sports team. I don't spend any time wasting time on doing things that just don't matter. And that's why a lot of my time that I spend is very intentional with how I'm actually spending it. So neither a time of year nor people determine my actions, my priorities do. And this is why you have to look and say, what are your priorities? Do you have those written down? Because if you don't, then you are just, again, a flag in the wind, and you just will go in whatever direction the wind is blowing. And that tends to be a lot of people's lives. Because when they say, I don't know how you do it, I'm like, you know how I do it? I have priorities and I'm anchored. That's one of the biggest reasons why those things, they don't determine my actions, the time of year or other people. They don't determine my actions, but my priorities determine my actions. Everything, guys, comes down to physical, chemical, and mental. Physical and mental chemical stressors. That's one of the biggest things. This is the whole idea of actually a chiropractic, is reducing physical stressors, looking at chemical stressors and mental stressors too. Because, guys, mental stress is an absolute killer. I don't care if you're male or if you're female. Female, you'll feel a lot sooner. But I had two conversations, in consults today, and it was the men who were talking about high levels of mental stress. And guys, mental stress can crush you. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. If you look at the physiological reaction that takes place, this is why even the Bible talks about anxiety and talks about worry and things like that. It's not God, some kind of cosmic creature that's out there that's just waiting to punish you. No, maybe God's right. And maybe some of the things that are in the Bible have 100% truth behind them. I believe that 100%. Physical, mental, chemical. And if the body is designed to be healthy, the body is designed to be well, if you're not experiencing that, then that's where you need to look, is physical, chemical, mental. And that's what we talk about at the inflammation event. Okay. Now, what are some general ideas that I believe that every single person should be doing instead of looking for the biohacks or just saying, you know what, I'm going to eat like absolute garbage, but maybe if I, take my shoes off and barefoot walk in the grass, it's going to take all my problems away. Or maybe if I go into a cold plunge, maybe if I find some, zesty workout routine or something like that. It doesn't ignore the fact that you need to be doing the basics. So do I believe that everyone should get adjusted? To some level. So some people have more spinal damage than other people. So there's a lot of people that need to be adjusted. The reason why is because it reduces physical stressors, helps you get into rest and digest, which allows for healing. Because if you stay in fight or flight, it's very hard for the body to be able to overcome that. Number 2, you should stimulate the spine often. What do I mean by that? I mean like doing home exercise in order to get movement into the spine. Every single person that comes in, whether they get adjusted or not, we go over specific home exercises in order to help them stimulate the spine to get it moving the way that they're supposed to. I actually think that every single person, that they needed to have it analyzed to see exactly what's going on, and they should be doing something. Do you know how often the spine should be stimulated? Daily. Yet most people, I say, how often are you doing home exercise? They're like, I don't know, maybe 3 times a week. And again, the reason why is because they're not anchored. They're not anchored because they're not anchored to their priorities. What they're worried about is neglecting their health and then trying to do something, call up that best friend. Finally, they need something, because I guarantee when that crisis goes away, then they tend to fall off track. So the spine needs to be stimulated often. Number 3, everyone should be strength training. Now, what should they be doing for strength training? This is why, guys, I'm not a fan of machines. I'm not a fan of, forcing yourself to go into some kind of machine pattern or things like that. I think that people should be walking into a CrossFit gym, and I think they need to learn some of the foundational movements of learning how to squat, learning how to deadlift, learning how to press, learning some level of gymnastics too, because you need a certain level of muscle mass for a lot of different things. Actually, to help prevent things like insulin resistance, for you to be strong, for you to be powerful, for you to have mobility, to be able to move so that you're not, moving like a grandpa when you're 40 years of age. And in fact, I'm going to tell you something. My 13-year-old son, just out of nowhere, this was, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he's a quiet kid. And he just looked at me. He said, Dad, I want to thank you. And I said, for what, son? He said, because you work so hard on your fitness, and I see so many dads who just neglect it so much. And I wanted to thank you for making that a priority, because I know it should be a priority in my life as well. So everybody should be strength training. Okay. Number 4, avoid ultra processed foods, even if they're gluten free ultra processed foods, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I eat gluten free or I eat this," and meanwhile, those things are food allergies that they have, and they think that if they're organic or gluten free, you can still be organically sick, even if you're eating a bunch of ultra processed foods, especially. Number 5, get plenty of sleep. So many people struggle with sleep. That's why we have the sleep challenge going on with the Wellness Way. You go to the wellnessway.com, you could download all the sleep resources, but you need to get sleep and you can't skimp out about that, because one of my priorities in 2024 was getting enough sleep. And in fact, last night I slept for 8 hours. I even took a nap today as well, because I know how important sleep is to recovery, to repair, and things like that. One of the interesting things is I just redid some labs, and wanted to see what had gone on over the last, 9 months or so. And since I had been incorporating way, way more sleep than I was before, some of the inflammatory levels, in my body went way down as well. So it just means that my tissues are recovering and repairing a whole lot better. Number 6, get plenty of protein too. So get plenty of protein. That's why most people don't get enough protein. And in fact, if you don't get enough protein, you're usually subbing it out with a lot of processed carbohydrates instead. So you need to make sure that you're getting adequate protein. And then the last thing I would say is get tested. How many of you are actually getting the testing done in order to see how well the body is actually doing? And this is not going to the doctor and they're running like a CBC and a CMP. Those are just tests that are looking for fires. And we're not looking for fires as much as we're looking for causes. And that's why working with our approach and how we test is so important, because we can point out how the body is building fires long before you ever have some kind of fire. And that's why, guys, getting tested. And I'll apologize because sometimes people will reach out wanting some kind of health advice, and I'll just flat out ignore it because I don't have any tests in front of me. And even if you did, I wouldn't be giving you any kind of advice either. So you need to get tested. You have to work with us one-on-one in order for me to be able to give any kind of advice or anything like that. But let me leave you with a final thought. Master the basics. And then when you feel like you've mastered them, go back and master them again. But this time, pay more attention. It's just so incredible how people over years, they just don't even master the basics. This is actually comes from Greg Glassman, who is the innovator of the CrossFit movement. And he talked about some of the foundational movements like the squat, and the deadlifts and things like that. These are foundational basic movements. And in fact, you might spend 12 years trying to perfect your squat, but master the basics, guys. And when you feel like you've mastered them, go back and then master them again. But this time, pay a whole heck of a lot more attention. And so many people that are looking for the biohacks, they haven't even mastered the basics, and they really need to take a step back and figure out, what am I doing? How can I start mastering the basics? Because guys, if you really master the basics, you do a good job of doing that, it's going to take care of quite a different thing. Now, this right here, one of my favorite shirts that I have, you might have seen me wear it in certain videos and things like that. It says, nobody cares, work harder. Okay. Nobody cares, work harder. In fact, I remember I had a staff member. She's like, that seems like it's kind of mean. And I'm like, no, it's not mean, but it's a pattern interruption. And people might look at that and it might interrupt their pattern and start getting them to think a little bit different. But the thing is that I always, have people who, they are working hard, but they're not working smart. There's a difference between the two. Work hard, but also work smart. But guys, on your health journey, you're gonna have challenges, you're gonna have failures, you're gonna have setbacks, and you just have to get back to the basics, and you have to continue to work hard, because the reality is, one of the realities of life is that people just really don't care. They really don't care. I care, but I'll probably tell you, nobody cares. Just keep working harder, especially. So guys, coming up October 29th, which is tomorrow at 6:00 p.m., this is our inflammation event. If you're from the Chicagoland area, you want to work with us directly, please get registered for that on our link tree. You'll be able to see that at the top. But guys, if you are dealing with any kind of weight loss resistance, if you're dealing with cancer, no, we don't treat cancer or anything like that, but you probably need to get your immune system panels done. If you're dealing with any hormone problems with infertility, thyroid disease, chronic joint pain, or anything like that, guys, inflammation is the spark that leads to every single disease that's out there, especially. And even when you look at the whole medical approach, you're going to understand that a lot of the medical approach is trying to lower inflammation, but not finding the source, but by just giving you a drug that's going to cover up the effects of the inflammation while the reason why you have the inflammation just continues to wreak havoc on your body. So come to the inflammation talk, get registered for that. All you have to do is if you go to a link tree, click on that link, you'll see inflammation event and you can register for it. It'll only take you about 30 seconds in order to register for that. And then two, guys, how many of you know that we have a t-shirt store? So if you like that t-shirt, men's and women's sizes, men's and women's styles, you can actually go on there and you can order your t-shirt on demand because we have multiple, like Nobody Cares, Work Harder, Mandate Burpees, burpees 1 star. Some of them are a little bit tongue in cheek, but they're great t-shirts and you can order that, order your size, have it printed and shipped to your house within a couple of weeks. So one of my favorite shirts, and that's actually how I live my life, is that's why I don't complain, because I'm like, nobody cares. Just put your head down and keep working hard, especially. So the best biohacks of 2024. Let me repeat what I said. There are none. Only just a lot of hard work done repeatedly over time. This is true with your health. This is true with fitness. A lot of things, what you have to do is just put your head down and work hard for months, sometimes even years. But make sure, too, that you're working with the Wellness Way doctor, because we're not into biohacking. We're actually into restoring health from a different perspective. We're the carpenters. We're not the fire department, to restore health from a different perspective. So I want to see you guys at that upcoming inflammation event in person. That'll be tomorrow, Tuesday at 6:00 p.m. Make sure you get registered for that. And I hope you found value with this. And I hope you just start to look at things from a lot different perspective, because there are no biohacks. Do some of these biohacks, do they improve your life? Yes. But just remember, they're not going to completely revolutionize your life. And I will tell you that if you send me a message asking about, the latest and greatest supplement or the biohack or whatever that you might be looking for. There are no biohacks when it comes to getting your health back. Just a lot of hard work done repeatedly, but making sure that it's the right approach. So guys, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you share this with other people as well. I love you. I appreciate all of you. I will see you guys probably next week. Don't have a topic yet. Might be a question and answer, but I can't wait to see you guys then next week. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Make sure that you vote early. And if you're a Democrat, vote often. And if you are not living, your vote's already probably been cast. All right. All right, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Be well, be blessed. And as I always say, remember who you are.